Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest episode of MetriSight, the MetriG podcast. I'm Beth Schultz, Vice President of Research and Principal Analyst at MetriG, and the topic for today is Communications Platform as a Service, or as it's more commonly shortened down to, just CPaaS. Now, MetriG's Global Customer Experience MetriCast 2023 research study we had about nearly 1,700 companies that participated in that benchmark study. And in that study, it shows CPaaS adoption to be at about 39%, with another 24% planning for implementation in 2023. Now, CPaaS is an enabling technology for customer experience transformation, we found. And if there's anyone who would know about that, it is my guest, Robert Galop. Currently, Robert is CMO of the recently formed CPaaS Acceleration Alliance. He is also co-founder of Creo Solutions, and Creo is a solutions design firm using AI, automation, and CX tools for customer service, marketing, and sales improvements. And Creo is also a partner of the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance. Now, earlier, Robert spent some time as CMO and head of product at Intellipeer, where he helped move CPaaS beyond the world of developers and into the enterprise. He's here with us today to share a status report on the state of CPaaS and the latest on the CPaaS Alliance. So, welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Beth. Great to be with you today.
So, as I mentioned, MetriG's CX MetriCast study shows enterprise adoption at about 39% today, with expected strong growth through this year, as well as into 2024. So, does this adoption that we see jibe with what the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance sees in terms of enterprise uptake of CPaaS?
It does. And I think the 39% number, when you think about the different ways you can use CPaaS, really starts to make sense, right? It could be as simple as somebody sending an SMS message when a job completes or sending notifications to employees. So that technically counts as CPaaS adoption, right? I think the big goal for the industry as a whole is to drive more use cases. So the 39% is probably technically accurate from what we see, but we as an industry would love to see that 39% grow, as well as see more penetration of use cases in the enterprise with CPaaS.
So not just being about that simple messaging API, which was kind of one of the, really the starting point, along with maybe voice APIs. Yeah. Okay. So tell us, how does the Alliance see the market shaping up? You obviously have a goal there. What do you see in terms of how the market's shaping up, and then what's driving the growth that you do see and hope to see?
Yeah, when you look at the market as a whole, we see strong opportunity for growth, and I think it's consistent across everybody that's looking at the market. The numbers that we've seen lead to about $100 billion in overall market size by the time we reach the end of this decade, right? So what are the drivers there? There's been a lot of activity in the market, and it's continuing to heat up. In fact, we've seen lots of acquisition as people jockey for space and grabbing market share and grabbing use cases. So yeah, I guess first thing first is the market growth is set to accelerate, and we're seeing that definitely from our members. What's driving that growth? So several things. Number one, we're seeing strong interest on the telco side of things, where they need more services to offer to their installed base, right? And they've all been offering UCaaS and CCaaS, and they're starting to dig deeper into CX and those other pieces of the business, and CPaaS is a natural enabler for that. So we're seeing a lot of interest and uptake from telcos. That's driving down into the SME portion of the market. So to date, and we'll get to this later, CPaaS has very much been in the realm of developers, right? And smaller companies don't tend to have a lot of developers sitting around to write code against CPaaS. But what we're seeing is more companies delivering CPaaS-enabled capabilities and functionality that small, mid-sized enterprises can use right off the bat without developers. So we're starting to see that trend. We're seeing a lot of it with our with individual companies delivering that functionality, as well as telcos partnering with those companies to go deeper into their install base. And then last but not least, we started off with enterprise adoption. I think the number is over the next few years, 90% of enterprises will have CPaaS as a core competency within their IT portion of the business. So you look at that number, I don't think there's any question that we will see continued uptake of CPaaS adoption and penetration within the enterprise space as well.
So that was telco interest, SMEs, and then further push into the enterprise to the point of, sorry, I'm looking at my notes here, to the point of 90% over the next few years. I mean, that's pretty solid. Would you say that's an ambitious growth projection, or you think it's not so ambitious at all?
I think it's a necessity, really. We've talked for years about CX being the differentiator for enterprises, and CX has to take in every single touch point that you have with your customers. And CPaaS, you can put out websites and you can launch CCaaS and have agents answering calls. But if you really want that bespoke customer experience and you want things to be tailored to your business and how you service your customers, CPaaS is a critical enabler for that across every single touch point of the business. So I don't think it's ambitious at all. I think it's an imperative for enterprises that really need to focus on that CX to drive growth.
Okay. So now I mentioned earlier you'd been at IntelliPair and you sort of pushed that use of CPaaS, or kind of the changing mindset from developer centric into all around the use of messaging and voice APIs, calling APIs, to be much more business friendly and for use in automating communications and business processes. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance, it talks about that in terms of CPaaS 1.0, CPaaS 2.0, CPaaS 3.0. So can you walk us through each of those? What are the differences, and really where are we today?
Yeah, so CPaaS 1.0 is obviously, or maybe not obviously, where it all started, right? And we talked about messaging at the beginning. I think the easiest use case was that everybody has talked about is Uber sending text messages between the driver and the rider, right? You had an API, you could send and receive text messages, and that's really where you started with CPaaS 1.0, and that was revolutionary. Think about a developer that needed to send real-time notifications to somebody. In the past, it was via email, and not everybody reads email all the time, right? So where we looked at IntelliPair as we started to get going was what's next after that, right? Because you've only got so many developers on the planet, and you've only got so many different use cases that can leverage what's on the message. So CPaaS 2.0 starts to look at how do we get beyond the developer into low code, into no code tools, where you can get into more drag and drop pieces. You've got off the shelf integrations with platforms that you're already using, whether it's a CRM system, an ERP system, or what have you, so that they can start to interact with those same services, messaging, phone calls, social media, right? So that's been out. I think we've been talking about that in the market for, since 2018, 2019, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now we're at the point where you've got more companies that, as we talk about telcos picking up CPaaS, and you talk about getting into small, mid-sized enterprises, you really got to stretch even further beyond that low-code, no-code experience into stuff that's tailor-built for particular verticals and particular job functions and things like that, right? So CPaaS 3.0 is really stretching what CPaaS is, and it's more of a complete workflow and a complete application that happens to have CPaaS powering it underneath, right? And then as you get those things in, you've got a standard application, you still need to be able to go back and customize it and build your own things on top of it. So you can quickly deploy those CPaaS 3.0 applications, but then you can go back and your developers can tailor things and build out more bespoke services on top of that with the standard CPaaS APIs.
I was going to ask if you, as you start to build out these workflows, do you sort of lose that necessity of talking in terms of CPaaS, but maybe not based on what you've just said about then being able to go back in and customize. So good point. So you've mentioned use cases quite a bit. So, between the time you spent at IntelliPeer, now at Creo, and with the Alliance, what are some of the more interesting use cases that you've seen enabled by CPaaS?
The one that continues to stick out to me, because we talked about this back in, I think, 2017 at IntelliPeer, was let's interject AI into the work stream or into the conversation, right? And if you've got AI listening to the phone call, what can you do with that, right? And it can be absolutely seamless. Neither person on either end needs to know anything about AI. It doesn't need to interfere with the call. And one of the cool use cases we've seen in one of our CPaaS showcase challenges at the Alliance has been just a simple, hey, let's do a phone call in a call center. And typically agents spend a lot of time taking notes and doing wrap up and things like that after the call. What we see now is AI, especially with generative AI. These systems are able to take that conversation and summarize it very quickly, call out what were the important points, what were the action items, in a time span that could have taken several minutes for an agent at the end of a call. Now you've got that completed in a handful of seconds, and it's been uploaded directly into the CRM record, and the agent's already moved on to the next call, right? So that's one simple use case, but I think it's so powerful because it's you can deploy it quickly, and you can start to do more things as you free up your agents.
Oh, incredibly powerful. And we know from our research that around generative AI that certainly that auto summarization is, one of the top use cases already. And I love to see that sort of, as we talk about CPaaS, we talk about CX, we talk about generative AI, it all comes together in that use case, which is great.
Yep.
Okay, so what role do communication service providers, you talked about telcos a little bit, what about communication service providers? What role do they have to play with CPaaS, and what do they need help with? And that's, I think, part of the mandate of the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance, right?
Yeah. So we'll start with what role they've got to play. They've got hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of customers that they're already doing business with. And this has been one of the things in the technology industry that, sometimes it's difficult to get in touch with the customer and have that direct relationship. And the beautiful thing about these CSPs and the telcos is they already have those relationships, right? So they already have contracts, they're already billing on a monthly basis. And they're already delivering services to them. So these companies that they're delivering services to are the same ones we're talking about that need to deliver a richer customer experience to their customers, a richer experience for their employees. So as these telcos start to adopt these services, they're able to bring those back and layer them in on top of the services that they're already providing. So it's very seamless. Your customer doesn't have to go out and find another solution provider. They don't need to sign another contract. You don't need another monthly bill. It's all through that same provider, and it just happens to be riding on the exact same network and the exact same services that they're using today. So that piece is really compelling, and we've seen that with a number of providers who are leveraging that and getting in and seeing good success with upselling and delivering more value to their customers. Now the challenge. So right. The challenge is, right, when all you're thinking about is, hey, let me sell you a phone number, and I'll sell you some minutes, and maybe I'll send you some text messaging. It's pretty simplistic stuff, right? It's a very different vocabulary, and it's a very different mindset from thinking about complex solutions. And not just, hey, how do we build these complex solutions, but how do we talk about them to the customer? Right. So what we've seen in the market, and I'll take blame for this as well. Right. We as technology providers do a horrific job talking about our products because we love our products. We want to talk about our products, but the customer doesn't care. All right. What the customer wants to know is, how are you solving my problem? What problems are you solving? So it's a big challenge, not just for CSPs, but also for technology providers, is speaking that language and really simplifying it for the end buyer.
Yeah, that's a great point. You have to fit yourself into some box so that customers at least know where to find you, but beyond that, they don't really care about what that product is,
Yeah.
just what it helps them do.
Right.
Okay, so here's an opportunity for you to give a little pitch for the Alliance. I know they have a summit coming up. When is it? Where is it? What else can you tell us about that? Anybody that might want to jump on that opportunity.
Yeah, we're super jazzed. This is honestly something, when I was running product and marketing in IntelliPeer, it would have been so nice to have a group like what we've got. And honestly, it's been founded by a group of people that have been in the industry and have struggled with these same things. So the event that's coming up, it's September 18th, and it's in Amsterdam. And it's going to be 3 days of awesome stuff. We're deep diving into use cases, deep diving into, where's the market going with AI? How do we get in, and how do we sell better to the small, mid-sized enterprises? How do telcos actually take this stuff and start to sell it better and integrate it with their services that they're offering today. So we've got, first day is going to be a deep dive for telcos, because this is a critical opportunity for telcos. And then the next 2 days are going to be for technology providers, everybody in the ecosystem. We've got some very large sponsors, KPN, Radisys. We've got many others that have joined, and we're continuing to drip those out on our social media feed here over the course of the next month. So it's going to be really cool, because we as an industry haven't had this type of an opportunity to get together yet, right? As Kevin Nethercott, another partner of ours, likes to say, we've always been 1 hour at somebody else's show. Now we get to have our entire show, right? So super exciting. We're already having a lot of great conversations, and I'm excited to see what comes out of the 3 days.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question, and that's sort of, look in your crystal ball, and what do you see when you look out 3 to 5 years? Where do you see CPaaS? You kind of, I think, touched on this to some degree, and maybe your opinion will change a little bit after September. What is it? 3 days, 18th, 19th, 20th. But for now, answer that question.
Yeah, for sure. So the dirty secret about CPaaS is, to be successful, you don't actually want to talk about CPaaS, right? So when we look 3 to 5 years out, really see CPaaS, number one, integrated deeply into the stuff that people are using on a day-to-day basis, right? Why do I even need to think about a messaging API and these other things when all I know is, in my day-to-day, I'm doing these 16 things, and I want to reach out to a customer at these specific points. And then the platforms work together to make that communications happen. So that's one of the big pieces, is deeper integration. We're seeing a lot of companies working together in the marketplace. So one of our members, eAnd, is eAnd Enterprise. They are, they're a large telco, part of a large telco. And what they're doing is they're strategically partnering with different providers, layering those into solutions that they're then turning around and selling into their customer base. So some really, really cool stuff. The other thing, and this has been really exciting, especially as ChatGPT has really hit the market, AI really deeply integrated and really useful within the CPaaS ecosystem and within the various platforms. When we laid this out, and we were thinking about this back in 2018, AI just wasn't quite there yet, right? It was fairly accurate, but not accurate enough to put into day-to-day conversations, let alone mission-critical conversations. Now we're at the point where it is pretty dang accurate, and you can train it on your customer data, you can train it on the other things in your business, and it becomes a real asset. I actually just saw, can't remember if it was McKinsey and Company or somebody else. They just issued a big report about the adoption of generative AI in the enterprise. And we're seeing, 9, 10, 11% adoption in specific workflows right now. As that starts to get better integrated into platforms, that's really going to explode. And that piece, I think, in particular, is the most exciting thing for CPaaS as we look 3 to 5 years out.
Yeah, that's explode is the right word, because this isn't going slow. I mean, so. Well, Robert, thank you so much. It's been fun. It's been informative. Really appreciate it. And listeners, I'm anybody who is looking to better understand the CPaaS market can attend, or maybe attend that Alliance event in next month in Amsterdam, or just check out the Alliance website. What's the URL for the website, Robert?
We are, so for the Alliance, it's cpaassaa.com. And then we've got a really cool URL for our show. It's CASA23, CASA23.amsterdam. So.
Okay. And then you can also contact us at MetriSight.com, and you can get information on our CPaaS research. We have a CPaaS market size and spending forecast as well. And then later this year, we'll be publishing a MetriRank, and that's a rating of the top 10 probably CPaaS providers. So keep your eye out for that. With that, thank you all for tuning in. On the behalf of Robert, myself, and everybody here at MetriG, take care, and I will see you next time.
Bye, guys.